Union troops are moving toward the crowd.
Everyone you see, we do this. Most humble, honored, and remembering of all the brave men and boys who never had the opportunity to get up off the field and go home. Thank you so very much.
Colonel Lee, NRA, Colonel Marshall, Colonel Porter. If any of you would like to come down this way and address us and ask us any question you would like, not necessarily about Appomattox, but anything military or political from that era. So, come on over and let us know what you got in your mind. What would you like to hear about?
It's a foolish question. So we'll take the second question first, and I'll ask the second question. Then you can go ahead and follow me with the first. Who can tell me what the name of Lincoln's dog was? Fido. Very good. You know what that stands for? Fidelis. Semper Fidelis. Have any Marines here? Former Marines? That means always faithful. Good name for a dog.
That was a
Quite a bit.
Elmer rolled.
I was a planter, but also I was served in the House of Representatives. I've served in the Senate, and I was also Secretary of War, probably one of the best, under Franklin Pierce. Even Lincoln told me that yesterday.
I was a clerk in my father's leather goods store at the start of the war.
Answered what I said yesterday, but I will tell you this: that when Jefferson Davis was Secretary of War, he authored a 9-volume series set of explanations as to why the new transcontinental railroad needed to go through the South. We sort of were suspect about that, and we ended up building it through the middle. There was some truth to that, but there was also, I mean, it's easier to go around the Rocky Mountains through Arizona than it is through Montana. But nonetheless, it sounded suspicious. If there was going to be a war, we didn't want them to have a railroad.
General Lee, what were you doing before the war?
Before the war, I was serving as Lieutenant Colonel of the 2nd U.S. Cavalry at Fort Mason, Texas, under the command of Elbert Sidney Johnston. You know, when you're in the Army, they say never volunteer for anything. Well, I had been Commandant of West Point for 4 years, and I hated it. When I heard the 2nd U.S. Cavalry was being formed, I went to Jefferson Davis, who was Secretary of the War at the time, and I volunteered for the 2nd U.S. Cavalry. It was the worst duty I ever had. All I did was travel from post to post to sit on court-martial duties or chase after Indians that I never did find. It was hot, it was dirty, there were snakes everywhere. It was just a miserable place to be stationed.
I saw somebody's hand up.
Entry into the South. The Tennessee, the Cumberland, and the Mississippi rivers were vital for Union transportation for troops and supplies. Now the Confederates are incumbent to block those rivers and to keep us from using them by But by the fall of Vicksburg, we pretty much had taken care of that.
What was the age of Lincoln at this moment back then?
Age of Lincoln.
Age of Lincoln at this moment at Appomattox was 56, shortly thereafter he was killed. I should tell you that the river strategy was key in winning the war, because one of the early attempts to win on the part of the North was divide and conquer, and the Mississippi was the obvious means to divide. But the problem with the Mississippi, even though they took the southern part of it initially, it flowed to the north. And if any of the gunboats were captured, flowed to the south. So if any of the northern gunboats were captured, they would flow into enemy hands from a northern perspective. However, the Tennessee River, which General Grant just mentioned, became a key because it ran north and south, but it flowed northernwards. So that way, if any gunboats were wounded or injured, they would float back into Union hands. And that became the first signal victory. And from that station, General Grant was able to go and capture the middle of the Mississippi at Vicksburg. And that was indeed the turning point of the war.
What were your reasons for fighting?
What were our reasons for fighting? I think if you ask any soldier, they'd all give you different answers. From the Southern perspective, let's start with them.
Independence. One word. Independence. Protect your homeland.
Well, they had enacted the Morrell Tariff. Because southern states were not purchasing goods from northern states. It was cheaper for us to purchase our products from Europe and have them shipped over. So the government, in its infinite wisdom, decided, well, we're going to put a tax on the southern export of cotton. And King Cotton was the largest exporter in the country at the time. And South Carolina said, no, sir, we've fought a war over this once before, over taxes. We're not going to have any part of that. So South Carolina decided they were going to leave the Union, and it became a trickle-down effect. Eventually, 10 more states followed with them.
In April of 1861, most of the Confederate states had already seceded, but that didn't cause war. Most of the Northern public was against the war. But when Fort Sumter was fired upon, you fired upon the American flag, and that aroused the anger of the Northern citizen, and they enlisted and wanted to fight the war. You fired on the flag. There was a lot of political issues. We talked about tariffs, we talked about slavery, states' rights. All of those were issues. But what got the Northern soldier to fight was firing on Fort Sumter.